Hi, I'm Tane.
And I'm Aid, and this is Altar Call on Patreon.
Hi, everybody. As promised, welcome to our bonus episode where we continue the conversation with Dr. Jessica and Dr. Pepper. And we continue to ask some questions about the book, but we also talk about MAFS. Enjoy.
So, in your book, you say something that I found very insightful, that almost everybody is worthy of love, and that people, maybe it's a millennial thing, but we like to say, like, we're working on ourselves before we are going to go find somebody. And you kind of say in the book, like, you don't need to make yourself into the perfect version of you before you go out and find somebody to love. However, for Married at First Sight, do you think the standard it should be higher or different? All the factors that might make you worthy for love might not make you the best candidate for an 8-week experiment where you're having to be very vulnerable very quickly.
Mhm.
So if
Well,
their standards are different, how do you measure them?
I don't know that the standards need to be different. I think it depends on and looking at that 8 weeks as the 8 weeks is when the show is done, right? And that's when that period of filming is done. Yes, they have to make a decision about if they want this to proceed, but we also understand that relationships are formed over time.
Mhm.
And our goal ultimately was to get people to a place where they're in a solid relationship. And even if they're not sure initially why they're matched, they've ultimately figured that out. Um, so I think the same principle would apply for couples of married at first sight, that you don't have to be a perfect person to be able to be matched with somebody. You can still have your stuff and you can work that out in the context of your relationship. I think the self-help culture did all of us, particularly women, a disservice, that you must be, work out all your stuff and be the strong, independent woman and have it all going for you before you can get into a relationship that's going to be a healthy one. And that's actually, I think, a myth that doesn't help all of us, and that there is some importance in being able to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
And this concept of fear of change, which we talk about in the first chapter,
Mhm.
couples coming into Married at First Sight in particular need to be open-minded around that fear of change, knowing that the healthiest couples are going to be willing to change within the context of that relationship. I don't know, Pepper, if you want to add to that, but
Oh gosh, I could go on this issue, um, because I think what we often find, and I'll do this larger than Married at First Sight. I'll talk about the society, is everybody is now wanting, their individual life to progress to a certain level before they'll consider having a partner. So
Mhm.
they want their education to be done, and then they want their first years of work to be done, and then they want to travel a bit, and they raise the standards of someone who is worthy of me at that point because they put so much work into themselves, and then they're 35 and they're thinking, OMG, you know, um, where is somebody for me? And then they're now in a pressure situation because not everybody wants children, but most people do. And so I think that they've done this in trying to just sort of nail down everything that's important, and now marriage is going to be the whipped cream and cherry on top. But then their demands for who that is and how that should be and what level they should be at are so high that those aren't the demands they would have made as they were progressing through life. They're now at the demands they're making when they feel they've progressed through life. Life is organic. We keep growing, I hope. And I'm not saying that everything's going to be great if you get married so young that you don't know who you are yet or what your main things are out of life you want. But I do think there's something to be building a life together, and you don't have to be perfect to do that. You just have to share some values and know the character of the person that you're marrying, and have a general sense of life goals together. Um, and I think that that makes for an exciting journey.
I wonder if you can settle a debate that Aid and I have about the show. Aid feels like if you were in a relationship and you broke up, like, what is it, 3 months, 6 months
Six
ago?
months.
Yeah, you're fine and you can come on the show and you're able to handle it. And I think that they have stuff they need to sort out and get rid of that past relationship and they're not ready for the show. What are your thoughts on that? Because we argue about that all the time.
It depends how long that relationship lasted.
Okay.
Okay.
If you're telling me you came in from a 5-year relationship and you broke up 3 months ago,
Okay.
year. Um, but if it was, if it wasn't that significant of a relationship or it was a shorter term, then I don't see a need to not
Okay.
move forward. I don't know, Pepper, if you would feel differently, but
I almost think it's a person by person evaluation. Sometimes a relationship went on a very long time and the end of it was really crummy,
Yeah.
and the person has learned a lot from that and changed a lot from that and now
Mm-hmm.
knows what they're looking for. So, I mean, it's a tough one to make that decision. I agree um, with Jessica that the longer it went on, the more it might make it hard for someone to reattach, in
Mm-hmm.
the right way. But I just think everybody's got their own story, and we try to evaluate that against one of the other things that people do and we do is there's so many variables, so many things to consider, and somebody we have to decide, and the person has to decide, what are the critical things that could bond somebody with them. And if there's so many of those, then you go like, well, I'm going to not discount, but I'm going to subordinate some of the things that don't work because there's so many critical things that do. And
Mm-hmm.
and then what you don't know is if that thing that didn't work is going to come back and bite you in the butt, or if it's going to be able to be, um, handled because the other really great stuff is there. It's a
Yeah.
really complicated puzzle about how two people fit together and what will undermine them and what will not.
Okay.
so
That's
you're
fair.
both right.
Exactly.
So
You're both right. I like that. And I felt that too.
There's a chapter in the book that talks about household responsibilities, and you state that couples who share responsibilities have longer lasting relationships. We had a guest on the show not long ago, and we were just asking for their point of view. And they seem to think that the show is gendered or maybe say traditional. And we have had a number of couples who seem to believe in these roles, like I cook, or they believe that the wife should cook and all that. And a lot of these seem to come from the couples. We don't think it's necessarily the show, it's just the couples. And we were wondering, like, do you think the show attracts more people with traditional views, or is it just coincidental? They're just the ones who make it to the matchmaking process in the show.
I was going to say one thing that's very traditional about the show and that we do select for is somebody who has to really believe in marriage.
Mm,
I mean, if you're very traditionally, you don't want to get married or you don't care about it. It's not the big deal to
mm-hmm,
you, or you may not, and that's fine. But for
mm-hmm,
us, you're going to undergo a great deal for marriage,
mm-hmm,
So that is traditional in the sense that there are people who want to cohabit for the rest of their lives or, be on and off in relationships. And we try and we think this show needs dedication to marriage. And you have to
mm-hmm,
think that's a really good institution. Now, how you operate in that institution can vary enormously. And, it could be the guy cooking or nobody cooking or whatever. But we match people for their desires. Like if we have some woman who loves to cook and that's the way she shows her love, and we have some guy that wants somebody who does that, um, then that's one of the things we'll take into account. On the other hand, if they have a difference on that one, but so many other things line up, we figure, okay, we're going to let them work that one out. But we don't select for conventionality. We select for a match.
okay.
And something that is conventional, traditional, however you want to describe it, is the show has never had a same gender couple.
Well, let me just say this. Everybody who is an expert on this show, past and present, would love to have a same sex couple. And a lot of my own research has been on same sex couples.
Oh,
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, I have a book called American Couples Money, Work, and Sex. It has 12,000 people in it. And I compare married against cohabiting couples, heterosexual, against lesbians and gay men. There's probably 1,500 to gay male couples and at least 1,000 lesbian couples, and taking a look at how gender or lack of gender affects what people are looking for and how everything
Hmm.
works. It was a major study in my life. It took 10 years. So, of course, I would be happy to study gay couples. It requires a different selection process. I mean, and
Hmm.
actually, Lifetime, the parent has said that they were not opposed to that, but it hasn't happened.
This holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, flavorful meals to fuel you on jam packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready to eat meal delivery service, can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef prepared, dietitian approved, ready to eat meals. You'll save time and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to dos.
Factor gives you calorie conscious options that don't skimp on flavor. If you need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and feel your best during the holidays, try the Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. The spinach and chicken mushroom was delish. It's not just dinners. You can choose from quick breakfast items, lunch to go, grab and go snacks, and ready to drink cold pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. Your meals are delivered straight to your door. They'll be ready in just 2 minutes, no prep and no mess. Head to factormeals.com/AutoCallMass50 and use code AutoCallMass50 to get 50% off. That's code AutoCallMass50 at factormeals.com/AutoCallMAFS50 to get 50% off. EarnIn is the app that's helping millions of Americans to feel self sufficient without falling into debt traps. This sounds like a great option if I ever needed financial momentum. Just download the EarnIn app and verify your paycheck, then access up to $100 a day as you work within minutes of earning it with no mandatory fees and no credit check. You can leave an optional tip if you want, and any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck.
Download EarnIn today, spelled EARNIN, in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the EarnIn app, type in Altar Call under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Altar Call under podcast. Subject to your available earnings, daily max and pay period max. See earnin.com/TOS for details. EarnIn is a financial technology company, not a bank. Bank products are issued by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
The mistletoe margarita, the Scrooge driver, the North Pole punch. Which drink is best for the holidays? The answer? All of them. And luckily, you can get everything you'll need delivered with Drizzly, the go to app for drink delivery. Whether it's classic like Bullet Bourbon, Don Julio Reposado, or Kettle One, or something new, fruitcake flavored tequila, anyone? Okay, maybe not that. But you can get the drinks you do want to match any holiday festivity on Drizzly.
Sending a gift to your family, friend, or coworker? Hosting some friends for an ugly sweater party? Restocking your bar? You name it, and Drizzly has you covered. Shop curated gift guides, get recommendations from experts, and more on Drizzly. So download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com to choose your drinks today. Must be 21 and, must be 21 and up, not available in all locations.
Okay.
We're patiently waiting.
I would, love that. I would personally love that.
That
And
would
I
be
know
amazing.
Jessica would too.
I absolutely would, and that I think that's one of the reasons it was really important for Pepper and I to make sure we were including very diverse couples in our book.
Hmm.
From couples from all different walks of life, ethnicities, gay couples, lesbian couples. So we wanted to make sure that it was relatable to, not just a heterosexual couple with,
Yeah.
from um, Texas, and no offense to Texas, but you know what I'm trying to say. Not one
Yeah, you
couple
got an
where
Estonian there.
we were we wanted it to be like, what are couples actually looking like
Yeah.
and doing, and in a way that's more consistent with what's happening in America and
Yeah. That makes
other
sense.
countries.
Well, as Jessica says, she loves love, and I do too. And in all of its wonderful diversity and variety, um, you know, big embrace of all of it.
Ooh. From the show, and we're friends here, so you can tell us who are some of your favorite couples. And who do you think practiced some of the prescriptions in your book the best?
I think Jessica and I share a lot of the same favorite couples. Several
Back
of
there
whom were,
smiling, guys.
well, who were at her wedding. You know, she's been wanting to be married to John for 3 or 4 years now, and then COVID came, and so everything got restricted. You know, and
Mhm.
last fall, Jessica finally tied the knot with John,
Finally.
and Jamie and Doug were there, and Shawnice
Mhm.
and
And
Jeffy were
Jeffy.
there. So they're right. Those are people we adore, and Jessica lives in the same um, state with one of them, and um, we've kept up with quite a few couples, but they're way up there, right, Jessica?
Yeah, Jeffy and Shanice will always have own my heart. And they've had a lot of bumps in the road, and they've done the
Yeah.
work, and they're doing amazing. And Laura is their daughter is so precious. Um, she was a ham at the wedding.
She's my favorite MAFS kid. We
Yeah,
have favorites, but hers is Deanna's and Greg, right? Mine
Yeah.
is Laura. Laura is just the best. She's the most intelligent little girl.
well, she was like killing it on the dance floor, killing it.
Shanice wrote you the nicest note on
Yes, she
Instagram.
did.
And the part that stuck out to me was she said that you had asked her, how do you want to co-parent or something like that? And I was surprised because I was like, oh, well, how long of a relationship do you end up having with some of the people on the show that it went, long after they were done filming them?
We did a so for me, my role on the show as an expert is to provide consultation to the cast of the television show and to connect them with professionals could actually do actual therapy outside of filming.
Mhm.
What we're doing isn't real therapy. We never do therapy on television. But it was really important to me that they had connection to professionals outside of that. So Jeffy and Shanice actually did another show called not Honeymoon Island, a different
The
show,
honeymoon, yeah.
happily ever after. And this was focusing on the couples who were have had kids or were having babies and have been struggling, and they've been very open about having the struggles that they had. And there was a point in time where they were facing, are we better off separated?
Mhm.
And so out of I love love, but I also love people happy. And
Mhm.
I, put children first, and kids need to have a happy mom who feels loved and a happy dad who feels loved. And that's the best thing. And if that means the two of them together, great. So we did have a conversation around what would co-parenting look like. And then, we stayed connected afterwards, just, and you get to know people over years and really care about their relationships and things. Um, and how they are as people. So we had those conversations about what would co-parenting look like. What would, the idea that do you, as mad as you are at your, the father of your child, you love your kid more, and what would that look like? And so I think giving her the space to be able to choose, or her see that you don't have to stay together, that maybe if you're not getting what you need, then, and you've done everything you can, how can you then be the best parents you can be separated? I think just giving her the permission, or talking with her about that, helped her sort of open, um, not feel so stuck, I guess.
Yeah.
There's some shame or stigma about, idea about, do I separate or to get a divorce? And that's a really tough decision to get to that point. But I think she needed some space to be able to say that, okay, I got to do the best thing for myself and my kid. And ultimately they worked it out and worked through it, and they're doing great. So
Yeah. That's awesome. This is good to hear. I have a question for Dr. Pepper. Something that has been controversial on the show lately have been bald heads. People don't want, and I have a two-parter. Is Pastor Cal, does he have an agenda to push bald-headed people on the show to keep their circle? But I'm just kidding. But you mentioned something about the matchmaking, and I'm wondering, at what point is it more important to give people, I think it's very important to recognize what you need versus what you want. It's a very important thing to know that people may not recognize. Do you over do you overlook maybe some of the things that they requested physically because you know that this person has something that would be very helpful to them? Or do you think that it's just important for them to be attracted to the person and then they can build on that? Like, how do you measure what's important? Because they don't usually take the time to find out why they should be with this person. They're just stuck on, they have a bald head and I don't want to get to know them. So how do you measure
Ugh. Uh, I
that?
mean, you're bringing up in some ways the Achilles heel of Married at First Sight, because attraction is really important, but it's led a lot of people astray.
That's true.
How many people, when you look back, that you would have, crawled over on, the sharp pike to get to,
Hmm.
do you realize that it was this incredible hormonal attachment that never had the right foundation, that was not a
Yeah.
good person for you, but you were desperately attracted to them? And
Yeah.
I think that's led people into a lot of dead ends, which is not to diminish attraction, because it can also save a relationship when it's going through bad stuff, but you know, you're drawn to this person. There's something chemical between you that keeps you in there working for it when you should. So it's a kind of a sharp edge of when it works against you or works for you. We try to get people who we think are attractive enough. Not They're not all
Hmm.
gorgeous, but they don't have two heads. Um, and we look at the past pictures of people who people have been attracted to. So we're trying
Hmm.
to stay within something that looks familiar. But of course,
Yeah.
as we all know, attraction could rise and fall on how someone smiles or the jokes
Yeah.
they tell or something like that, right? So
Yeah.
it's very difficult. What we do think of is what would make a good marriage. We don't discount attraction, we want it in there. But, how much are they matched at? Do they have the same life goals, personality, religious, where they are in the spectrum, politics, so much that goes into, what makes you feel like this person is on the same path you are and wants the same things out of life you are, would be fun to be with, or would be serious enough for you. Whatever it is, we're looking at as many variables as possible. And then
Yeah.
if it comes down to whether the guy is bald or not, we're hoping, and we've done this a couple times, that is not a one stop ruination for the match. And
Yeah.
Lord, sometimes it is. I mean, I just go, where's this person's sense of proportion, I
Yeah.
mean, and
Hmm.
of course, we've all had people who we didn't signal out as attractive in the beginning, but they're cool in so many ways, and they get more
Hmm.
attractive to us. And we start thinking, this is a handsome person or good looking woman, even though that wasn't our first thought, maybe not even our second or
Yeah.
third thought. But over time, they're fantastic, right? Um,
Yeah.
so we're hoping that what we've figured out on the um, lineup of who that person is strong enough to carry what might not be an immediate attraction. And the bald one really makes me nuts, because what are you going to do? Someone with somebody who has hair, they lose it, and you're going to say, "Sorry, I'm leaving." I mean, it just to me is not the variable I would stake a life choice on, and yet we get people like that. And sometimes we put, and this has happened recently more than a little bit, we put two, I think, extremely good looking people together, not just nice looking, but extremely good. And they go, eh, I mean,
Yeah.
so we're hoping. That's why we so are interested in their believing in marriage. Do you want a marriage? What are you willing to work through to have a
Yeah.
lifetime person that has your back? You know?
Yes.
And
Hmm.
so you just bring up. I actually wrote an article. I have a column in Seattle Magazine about the three things that frustrate me so much in terms of marital or even dating choices. One of them is the hair, no hair. The other thing,
Oh, I triggered you. I'm sorry.
you triggered me. It makes me so upset. The other thing is
I'm
height.
kidding.
We have these little 5'2" women say, "Well, he's got to be 6'1" or above." I go, "No," but I mean, that really makes me crazy. Um, and I mean, there's a couple other things, but I just the things that I feel
Yeah.
are not important in the grand scheme of what life offers and also challenges you with. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I feel about
So,
it.
so to follow up on that question, and hopefully not to trigger you anymore, but throughout the 8 week process, we've seen so many people who may or may not be attracted to each other. How exactly should they go about communicating their non attraction to their partner?
Mm,
Or
you are
should they
triggering me
communicate at
again.
all?
We've decided, I will say this. This is another Tane and I discussion. We've never seen an example of someone doing it correctly. If you don't say anything and you get to the end, everybody crucifies you for not saying that you weren't attracted from the beginning and there was no hope here. If you do say something, how dare you? So, from the expert's perspective, what should you do?
Well, I'll be curious to see what Jessica says about this. I'll give you my first thing is shut up. You know, do not say to them, yeah, I often, I usually date thin women, or and then they say, oh, I didn't mean anything by that, you know, or you're not my type generally, or whatever like that. I mean, just
Gingery.
I mean, oh, don't do that, And by the way, I now, when I talk to a couple, I say to them, don't do that. Don't tell
Okay.
them how you feel about their looks, etc. You've just met them.
Yeah.
See what you
Yeah.
can grow to see in this person that would make them more attractive to you. Examine your own feelings about why you have these hard stops on this or that. Does that really serve you? Where does it come from? Question
Mhm.
yourself and not the other person's looks. Um,
Mhm.
and then we try and give them a lot of experiences so they can see the beauty of this person that we saw, when we pick them. But there are certain things that once out of your mouth, too many people cannot forget, and they do not, it just stops them dead. So even if you change your mind, they don't stop feeling that you're not really wanting them. And so now you got two problems instead of one. So that's where I
Mhm.
stand. Give yourself the time and the encouragement to see how you can see this person, as opposed to ending it on like, hello, yes, I want to marry you. We're going on our honeymoon. But you should know that, I don't find you this, that, or that. It's just the wrong thing to do. What do you think, Jessica?
I would agree. Stop talking. Think about what you're going to say and don't say it. Zip it. Um, and just keeping in mind that both uh, individuals in the couple are so vulnerable. They've taken this huge leap to marry someone they don't know. They're doing it on
Mhm.
television and
Yeah.
broadcast in people's living rooms, and so they're both in a really vulnerable place. So they're also going to be really hung up on, are they attracted to me? Do they like me? And so any slight or hint that they're not, feeling you is going to feel, I think, 10 times more magnified because of the pressure. That said, we work with couples and do this even if you're not in a television show. Think every day, what are three positive things about this person? What are three
Mm.
things I'm grateful for? What are three things I appreciate? What are three things I think are attractive about them? And just challenge yourself, even in your own relationships, to think about that and start your headspace that way. Because if you come at it from more positive angles, that's going to be what's going to fight off any of that sort of negativity that may be there. And for some couples, there might be that initial attraction, that spark, that fiery feeling in their body, and some it grows over time, and attraction can also grow. So I think
Yeah.
keep your mouth shut and also focus on the positive.
Yeah, you're right. Keisha on After Party always says your energy goes where your energy flows. So if you think positive, then maybe you start seeing positive things about them. Okay, to kind of wrap things up, for each of you, what is your favorite part and least favorite part of the show?
My favorite part is when I tell them they've been selected right in the beginning.
Oh.
Oh,
They're just thrilled. They're so happy. And, I'm hoping they'll stay happy, but at least that moment, they are just so happy and we can just feel thrilled together.
I would agree with that, Pepper. And my other favorite part is when they are having kids and seeing like
Yeah.
families being formed, and that is, I think, the most heartwarming part of the working with the couples. I think doing the television show, back to what I'd said earlier at the beginning of our talk today, is being able to reach people in a format or a platform that wouldn't ordinarily access, relationship experts or, mental health or anything like that, and being able to give tidbits to people at home that can help improve their relationships too, just by watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Dr.
think that's
Pepper, we need more of those. We need more babies.
well, I just got a Christmas card of Bobby Dodd and Danielle showing their two little
Yeah.
kids and holding
Yeah.
them up together, and I'm like, big smile, big heart touch. We that's what we aim for. We want to get those Christmas cards. We want to know that we've started people on a journey that they were brave enough to begin. I mean, I really think it takes a lot of courage to do this, and just putting aside the people who do it for the wrong reasons. I'd say 90% of people do it for the right reason. They may not be able to effectuate what they want. They maybe still have a lot of baggage and things that get in their way. Um, but I think most people go into this wanting very much to fall in love and be married. And when we see some of them actually do that, I should also say what we also find is from a lot of people keep in touch with us who weren't able to have the right marriage, but feel that
Oh.
the experience changed them so they could in the future. One of the early shows from Atlanta with Samantha, who treated a
Hmm.
wonderful man, badly,
Yeah. Yeah.
recognized it by the back end of it, fell in love with him, but it was too late for that marriage. But she became a different and a better partner in the future. And she's now married and has a kid and wrote us saying that, it was her experience with Married at First Sight that made it possible for her to make a better choice in the future. And we do get some of that. And so, they don't have, it doesn't have to be a successful marriage and family for me to feel we've done good things for that person's life.
Hmm.
And I also feel, and I know Jessica feels the same way, in the same way we feel in the book that we're reaching out to people to give them tools. We know that we
Hmm.
reached out to the audience, and some of those people are taking tools that changes or betters their marriage or their partnership, um, and that's a very satisfying thing to do. That's why we
Yeah.
write the book, as another way of feeling like we could help people have better relationships. And for most people, that's the very core of their happiness. It is to have a good relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the flip side, what is the least favorite part? If you can say it.
I can say it. I know exactly what it is when people break up who I thought are breaking up for the wrong reason. They could have had a great
Mm.
marriage. They've let other things get in the way. It just frustrates the hell out of me. That's mine.
That's so interesting. I think sometimes as a viewer, we watch it and we're like, to the experts, stop beating this dead horse. These people are done. And then they come to the reunion and you guys kind of encourage them, like, maybe this could still work. So I guess from your point of view, you don't do that for every couple. There are just certain couples who you think really could have.
Made it work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder what Jessica feels.
I think for me, a couple things. I think one, social media,
Yeah.
can be so cruel to people and couples, especially those who didn't come across so great on the show. There's so much filming that's done, 40 something hours a week with each couple, but 5 minutes makes it onto the show. That's just the way that, a docuseries goes. But so there's no, don't always have the totally the full story, and or maybe people don't see that side of themselves until it actually airs, but the rest of the world does. And it can be very, social media can be very mean. There's a lot of people who are supportive of the show and couples on social media as well, but I think that's been hard to see, and people um, struggle with that, and
Hmm.
or who end up needing to access mental health services because of how tough social media has been. And so I think that's one thing. I think the other is just knowing, and this is only a couple people over all the 9 different series of various shows and offshoots I did, where I leave feeling, was this actually the right choice for them? And I don't know the answer for that, and I have to tell myself,
Mm.
in my heart of hearts, maybe 5 years from now they'll be like, this is why I did that, this is what I learned. But I might be in that space with them where we're like, I don't know that this was the best choice. So, and not being able to answer that question, I like to resolve that dissonance and
Okay.
can't always do that. So
Okay. Thanks. Um, I think, is there anything else that you want to share about the book or anything that you want people to know about it? What was your favorite part of writing the book? What was your favorite aspect? Just anything that you want to share with people.
I think one of my favorite parts about doing the book is that it is very accessible. We really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure that it could reach a variety of different kinds of couples, diverse couples, and also that it's practical. It's one thing for us to be pontificating. We both, work in universities, and um, all the research is great, and we ground all of our exercises and suggestions in the science, in the research, but we actually talk about here's what you can do. Here's what you can do at home. These are the exercises you can use in a way that I think that is practical. So we're giving tools, not just theory, about things like effective communication, resolving conflicts. How do you talk about sex with your partner? How do you resolve issues around finances or kids? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of disagreements about kids. So I think it's accessible, and I think it's practical, and I think it's real.
Yeah, I was going to say I double underline the practicality. It's the most practical book I've ever been involved in. I give great credit to Jessica in this. She's got a vast clinical experience and comes out of several literatures I didn't know that I've learned from. And I think everything's in it very doable. And I love the the fact that the book starts with one of the issues is fear of change. I have never seen that addressed as well personally in books, and how often people are afraid of, have trouble navigating changes that have to happen, changes they want to happen, or even the fear of changes that might happen and that
Mm-hmm.
interfere with their bonding and their happiness. And that was something that came out of our discussions. It's I just think it's a valuable book, and it's accessibility, its doability has me excited about it. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to Jessica on that. A lot of it comes out of her clinical practice, and I thought it was just an exceptional contribution to couples out there.
Okay, well, I do have one more question. I'm so sorry. But one question is just, it wasn't about the book, but it was just like the show has evolved so much over the years. And now, like, couples get to meet each other and they didn't before. And where do you stand on that? Do you think you preferred when the couples were not separated? That's something else we disagree on. I think they should be separated because they get distracted by other people. Or do you think that it's okay because they have to talk to someone and share those experiences? And part two of that was, like you mentioned in the beginning, like the experts, there was a focus on sex and then someone else in spirituality, and it's kind of blended a little now. What are your thoughts on all the changes and the evolution that has happened over the show, over the years on the show?
I like the fact that we are not so much in our own silo, because it's
Okay.
that's hard to be effective that way. I mean, our silo is
Okay.
much more diverse than the ones we were given. So that
Okay.
that I like. I was against all the couples meeting.
Ah.
I was. Not that anybody listened to me, but I was afraid of what's often happened is the distraction, or the gossip of a small circle, and then it doesn't go
Mm-hmm.
between the couple, it comes from outside the couple.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could do it, on the other hand, I do get the fact about how much they need some other kinds of experiences. They were so hothoused when they were just alone for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So I could see bringing in the other, if it were me designing it, I would bring the other couples in a little, but not the continuous way
As much
they
as.
are, because I think
Okay.
that has sometimes helped couples, but it's sometimes hurt them badly, I think.
Yeah, and I would agree with Pepper. I think it's good and bad. I think the plus side of it would be that you can create a community with people who are going through a really unique situation that none of us else have experienced,
Yeah.
right? So they can sort of bond with each other. The risk, though, which I think outweighs anything, is the comparison. Comparing yourself to another couple that may be much further down,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then or the poisoning of the well.
Yeah.
when it's so vulnerable and so precious at that time that they have together. So I think there's positives and negatives to that. Probably the same thing that viewers think, that there's probably
Yeah.
pros and cons to it. And it sounds like since my departure, they've been doing a lot more of this with the doubles. So I'm just waiting.
Okay. Thank you for answering all our questions. Can you let people know when your book's coming out, where they can find your book?
Yes. So our book is currently available for pre-order, but it will be officially available on February 13th. So it's released on February 13th, but you can order it now, pre-order it now from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all your major booksellers. And you can certainly find connections to it at both Pepper and my social media platforms. And Instagram is probably the best one for me, and probably Pepper too.
Do you want to share your handle where the people can find you? Or
I think mine is Dr. So Dr. Jessica Griffin, and Pepper's is Dr_Pepper_Schwartz, which is SCHWARTZ. And we're
Is
both.
it spelled that way to get it corrected? When I first started Instagram, I didn't know anything. I think I spelled my last name wrong.
Yes, it's spelled correctly.
Oh, is it good? Somebody corrected it for me. It's so embarrassing.
All right, guys, Tane and I read the book and we highly recommend it. It's a great read. So you should go out and find it. And
And
thank you so much to Dr. Pepper and Dr. Jessica for coming on our show. We really, really appreciate it.
yes, it was fun talking to you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
both so much for having us on. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Bye.
appreciate it. And you had great questions, I must say.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone.